kind of person who makes Pakistan. And the reason why Veena Malik is my hero is because, that's a very different Pakistan that is speaking there, that's defending the right to cuddle on Indian television with an Indian TV star, which I think she should have that right. And moreover, more than she should have that right, what she's saying is, we, hypocrites, want there to be a Veena Malik. We want there to be a Lollywood bombshell. We want there to be many Lollywood bombshells. We consume the entertainment product that Veena Malik is. And then we want her not to be Veena Malik. And I think what she's revealing about us is our own hypocrisy. But because she does it in a way that is disarmingly funny, and also, very sharp, she's opened up some space around her. And the reason why she did it partly is because she's brave, but partly what happened with Veena Malik was, if she was no longer allowed to be Veena Malik, she's out of a job. If she can't be this bombshell, it's over. She can't just retreat into her, her villa, turn on the generator, have the private security force, and live, as an island cut off from Pakistan. She needs a Pakistani audience to do her profession. So she had to fight if she wasn't going to have her business or her occupation denied to her. And she did fight. And the fact that she won, at least that particular round, is encouraging. It shows that, saying quite clearly what you think and exposing the hypocrisy of somebody else can win in Pakistan.
So Veena Malik is your post-feminist icon.
Yeah, feminist, not, I don't even know what the term necessarily means, but I think a human being who has spoken so articulately about what her position is, and defended it at a very, very frightening juncture, and in a way that was so persuasive, not just to me, but I think to millions of Pakistanis who watched and laughed themselves silly at Mufti Saab's, sort of contortions. I think that is heroic. There's no other way to describe it.
Great. I'm going to get back a little bit to the Reluctant Fundamentalist, and then we're going to have you read something for us, I think, if you're up for
Sure.
it. And then we'll take questions. Does that sound okay to everybody? And how are we doing for time? Does anyone know? I think we're so off schedule, I don't know what's happening anymore.
When did we start?
I have no idea.
Well, let's be
All right, we'll
quick.
go until, okay, we'll be quick.
Let's try to catch up the time everybody's already lost.
Really, then I'll just ask you one final question of my own. I noticed that the two protagonists of your novels, in Matsumok Daru and in The Reluctant Fundamentalist, Changiz, they're both fallen financiers. You're very fascinated with people who used to be in the financial world and then fell from grace. So could you say something about that?
I guess I'm partly a fallen financier myself, but at the moment, finance is a way in which our world is governed. So the financial sector, by allocating money to different things, is a kind of governance function in the world. Banks are like the brain of the human body. They tell the hand and arms and feet what to do. And so therefore, it's a very interesting world, the finance world. Is that me? It's a very interesting world, the finance world. And so that's something which I've seen and I'm interested in. But both of my characters are people who have proximity to more wealth and are attracted by that wealth, but sort of unable really in the end to grasp it. And I think that's kind of the predicament of the world right now. Because of television, everybody knows that there are people who are much better off than themselves. So in this room, the average person is probably much better off than the average Pakistani citizen, but there are many people who are better off than the people in this room. And there's an awareness of this thing. And I think the combination of really unequal societies and mass media is that everybody's like a kid at a candy store, looking in, but the store is locked. And that's the kind of character that I've written about in my first two books, but it's not necessarily the only kind of character that I'll write about.
Do you think you'll ever write a book with a female protagonist?
I might. I've written a voice character in Matsumok, and I could do it. It's possible.
Great. Well, those are all the questions I have for you, and thank you for being so generous with your answers.
Thank you.
We would love to hear something that you'd like to read.
Okay.
I'll leave it up to you what you'd like to read from.
Let me see. I'll just read, what will I read? I'll read a little bit from the beginning of Maud Smoke, because at this festival, a lot of people have come up to me and said, oh, I've read your books and I really like Maud Smoke. And I can take that in one of two ways. Either they don't like the Reluctant Fundamentalist or they like them both and they prefer Maud Smoke. Who knows? But I'll read from Maud Smoke. So here's a little passage at the beginning. Steadying the steering wheel with my knees, I pulled the last unbroken cigarette out of a battered pack of flakes. There are trees by the side of the road, but only on one side, and it's the wrong side. So their shadows run away from me in long smiles that jump over boundary walls and grin at each other while I bake in my car like a snail on hot asphalt. Knees turn the wheel left, then right, steering around an ambitious pothole, a crack aspiring to canyonhood. Fingers twist the barrel of the cigarette, loosening the tobacco, coaxing it into a sweaty palm, rubbing the flake between thumb and forefinger until it's almost empty. Eyes flick up and down, watching the road through the arc the steering wheel cuts above the dashboard. Foot gentle on the accelerator. Slide the ashtray out and tip half the tobacco in. Take the compass I've had longer than I've had this car, which is a long time, and spear the hash on one blackened end. Left hand holds the tobacco in its palm and the compass in its fingers. Right hand grips a plastic lighter while its thumb spins the flint. Sparks, no flame. Sparks, no flame. Then a light, and when the blue fire licks the hash, a sweet smell with a suddenness that's almost eager. Crumble the hash into the tobacco, crush it, break it, feel the heat telling nerves and fingertips to pass on the message of a little hurt. Knead it, mix it thoroughly. Hold empty flake in mouth by its filter, suck and refill, pack against a thumbnail, tip, tip, tip. Repeat, tip, 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 and twist the end shut. Incisors grab a bit of filter, pull it out gently, like a bitch lifting a pup. Tear off a strip to let the smoke through, reinsert the rest to hold open the end and keep things in their place. I light up while rubbing the hash and tobacco residue off my hand and onto my jeans. Rolling while rolling, solo, and baking while baking in the heat. It helps kill time on long afternoons, and I haven't traveled very far, but I know that no place has afternoons longer than this place, Lahore, especially in the summertime. 2 drops of Visine, and I'm set.
I really do like that passage. I remember reading it and thinking, wow, baking while baking. Would you like to read anything else, or would you like to go to questions from the audience?
I think we should go to questions.
Let's go to questions from the audience. You've been very patient. Yes, this is going to be hard because I can't really see people. In the front, the gentleman with the microphone.
Mohsen, I was anxiously, very keenly listening to you when you mentioned, when she asked you about what is your take on Pakistan? Are you pessimistic or optimistic? And I got the feeling that you were not sure. You were pessimistic, but there was some optimism which you couldn't explain. Okay, my suggestion is that from a gathering like this, we should make a way forward, go forward. And for that, I have a suggestion. I want you to tell me whether you agree with me or not. We should stop making saints out of the motley lot that has infested this country in the garb of leaders and politicians and bureaucrats and the establishment right from the beginning. We should stop making saints out of them. You see, you make them saints and we start worshipping them, and that's one of the main reasons for our ruin.
Okay, excuse me, in the interest of time, can we just keep it to questions? If you have a question, please
you see,
ask.
It's such an important fundamental issue, and I would like to hear from you on that.
I mean, I agree. I don't think leaders are saints. I don't think they should be made into saints. But I think despite the seeming, treating leaders as saints, there's a deep cynicism among most Pakistanis when you talk to them. I mean, Pakistanis you can't generalize about everybody, of course. Everybody's different, but there's a very healthy distrust of authority and people in power, as there should be, because this is a country where the vast majority of people have been totally unfairly treated by the state. So I think that when we make people into saints, it's often it's more for show, I think, than any kind of sincerity. But I would agree with you. I don't think we should make our leaders into saints.
I saw a hand raised in the back. There's a lady very near the aisle. Let's let them get that to you.
Thank you. Mr. Hamid, I wanted to ask on the level of a human being, a writing person, okay, as a creative writing person, Lahore exists as a very strong, imagined, remembered, loved reality. How has it, in Motsmoke especially, how, when you've returned to it now, has it changed from then? And my second question is, in the process of writing Motsmoke and the process of writing Reluctant Fundamentalist, what surprised you in terms of what you were writing? Like, as you wrote it, you were surprised to realize, this is what I'm really interested in, or I'm searching for, or whatever.
Yeah. You know, I mean, Lahore has changed. So Lahore is becoming a massive city. You know, 8 million people. It stretches forever. The beautiful Lahore with old giant trees is still there. The old city is still there, but that's a smaller and smaller part of what Lahore as a whole is. So I think Lahore is changing. The romantic Lahore that I keep thinking of, you know, evolves. But I continue to find Lahore a city that I can fall in love with and keep falling in love with. And maybe that has nothing to do with Lahore and entirely to do with, you know, the attitude I have in relationship to the city. I don't know. But I think right now there is a massive world city being born in the place that is Lahore. And Lahore's self-regard is as a provincial town. And there's a gap between the provincial town. Even many people in Karachi think of Lahore as a provincial town. But you know, Lahore has as many people as London, so it's not a provincial town anymore. And just the sprawl of it, the scope of it, the immigration from all over Pakistan, but particularly all over Punjab, it's a different city. Yet Lahore is an old city, and people have been coming to it, I think, for similar reasons for a very long period of time. So it continues to throw up universities, it continues to throw up artists, writers, musicians, people who love food. There is something in a Lahori character that endures, but the city is changing, and I think in the change is also something which is somewhat sad, that you know, as cities like Lahore grow, the number of extremely poor people in them is growing very rapidly. And you know, poverty is on the rise in Lahore. It's a city where I don't remember seeing people sleep on the streets or you know, freezing to death in the winter. But now that happens. So the sort of nostalgic, oh, beautiful city, Lahore, you know, semi-myth is coming up against a harder, you know, urban reality at the same time. And in terms of, but for all of that, it's a city that has a story that, you know, I find very captivating. In terms of my novels, when I was writing them, what surprised me, it's hard to think of any one thing. I mean, lots of things surprise me when I'm writing them, but when I was writing Motsmoke, I guess, and I was creating all of these characters, you know, one surprise was that this character of Mumtaz, who didn't exist in the first draft of Motsmoke, kept growing and growing, and you know, at some point she sort of almost felt like I you know, need to write a novel for her. And the relationship with that character, which is you know, certainly the most romantic relationship I've ever had with a fictional character that I've made, you know, it was a surprise to make that character, and I think, you know, what she became and in a fictional universe touched me, you know, very deeply. In The Reluctant Fundamentalist, I guess the surprise was figuring out just how to do it. You know, a lot of people seem to think that The Reluctant Fundamentalist is a novel about a religious fundamentalist, but it isn't. The main character in The Reluctant Fundamentalist, as far as we can tell, is not particularly religious at all. Maybe not religious whatsoever. Nor is he a terrorist in the sense that he's never done anything violent. The Reluctant Fundamentalist is a novel about people's perceptions of each other, about how fear can be created through innuendo and stereotype. And to write that novel and figure out how to write it, I kept trying different things, different voices, writing it in the first person, the third person, whatever. And eventually, you know, I guess the surprise was finally to give Chengiz the voice that he has, which is a particular kind of Pakistani private school like Aitchison College, you know, or in India they have the Doon School, you know, with these Victorian institutions that teach you to speak English in a Victorian way. That most kids who graduate don't wind up speaking that way, but a few do. And very often there's a class component to why they speak that way. And as I found that voice, it helped me write the story, and it was kind of a surprise to find the voice. But when I found it, I realized this is what it was going to be.
Okay, in the interest of time, we're going to take 2 more questions. There's a young lady in the front here. Yep, you. Can she have the mic, please?
Hello,
Sorry.
excuse me. I have got the mic, goes there. Mr. Mohsen, I won't make a long comment. I agree with what you have said. With
No
most of the-
comments, please.
No, no.
Questions only so we
Questions,
can
but
get to everybody.
it is a question, but what I mean to say is that about optimistic picture, about fundamentalism, etc. But at the same time, there are a lot of people who are very dejected. They feel Pakistan, there will be chaos.